All right, everyone. Monday morning. I hope you're all well and coping with another Celtic loss. We've become pretty accustomed to them recently, which is a bit of a strange thing to say, but it's kind of the truth. Ryan, hello. Good morning. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Hamish. The sun is out. The weather is taking a turn for the better rather than the worse. So at least we've got that. In terms of Celtic, it was another disappointing afternoon. And what is becoming, as you quite rightly said, far too many times this season. There seems to be these disappointing hurdles that Celtic seem to stumble over. For a team that are pushing to win the league, they're not exactly doing it in style. They're what was the exact phrase that Brendan Rodgers said yesterday? They are there was a specific. I've been reading the quotes since yesterday. Took a bit of a detox, and then I've completely forgot about them. I think it was like cluttering over the line or clattering over the line rather than doing it in style. So that's how I feel this morning. Delighted about the weather, but in terms of everything else with regard to Celtic, pretty downbeat, to be honest.
I think chugging over the line
Chugging over the
was
line.
the
That's the one.
was
That's the
was
one.
the word. I was just trying to remember that from earlier. We lost 2 matches in the whole of 2024, and we've already lost 6 in 2025. So bit of an alarming stat, given that we're only 3 and a bit months into the year. Okay, we can discuss that. Good morning, everyone. Lovely to have you with us. These videos after Celtic defeats, when there's a bit of a post-mortem going on, tend to be quite busy. So, yep, let us know how you're feeling. May not be entirely positive, but who knows? There might be some people out there. There are definitely people out there who think this is just a bit of a blip, and the fact that we're so far ahead in the league is what's contributing to this, and we shouldn't be overly worried. So if that's your viewpoint as well, please let us know why you're thinking that way. Okay, quick word from our sponsor. First of all, this Celtic Way video is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh, and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Ryan, we also have this offer at the moment.
We certainly do. And first of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody that's taken the time to subscribe using this latest offer that we've got. It's currently £1 for 6 months of access. We had a really good day yesterday, despite the result in terms of viewing figures on the site. So thank you to each and every one of you for contributing to that. Whether you clicked on one article yesterday or 10, we really do appreciate it. If you sign up for this £1 for 6 months of access, you'll also receive a free Jota print from renowned football artists made by Frankie. We've worked with her a couple of times in the past. Callum McGregor, Kyogo, etc. Now we've got Jota on the wing. £1 for 6 months of access. All you need to do is go to www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe and get involved. And thank you to everybody that's done so far. The numbers have been absolutely brilliant.
They have. Okay, where do we start on yesterday then, Ryan? Should say John and Tony did the post-match yesterday for the channel. Tony was at the game. Really enjoyed their chat, actually found it quite helpful and pretty measured, I would say. So I think we can do a little bit of that. Obviously, a lot of you will have comments that we'll get in as well, but also just want to look forward and look at this weekend's game against Kilmarnock, which sadly isn't going to be a title clincher. And we can potentially ponder how Celtic get out of this rut that we find ourselves in. And personally, I think it's been a fair amount of time that we've been in this rut. I think virtually the whole of 2025, I think there's clearly an issue there at Celtic now that the players, not every player, but I think the majority of players have lost their appetite to really push themselves and to go and win games. Something's gone amiss there for whatever reason. So we can discuss that. How do we get out of that? You might have some ideas, Ryan. But just some early thoughts on the game yesterday.
Just Celtic completely dominated the ball for large portions of the game. They had something like 20, 21 shots, 26 shots, I think it was, including all the block shots, 9 on target, but they couldn't score against the bottom team against St Johnstone, who, to their credit, and they deserve a lot of credit, they've managed to fight their way back into that relegation scrap, or they can see the light at the end of the tunnel after that result. I don't think anybody was expecting, not least the teams that are around them, the likes of Dundee, Ross County, etc. I don't think they were expecting St Johnstone to come out and get 3 points against Celtic. So that's injected new life into their survival hopes, which is good for them. I suppose they deserved they deserve to take something from the game yesterday. I don't think Celtic deserved to win the game whatsoever, but Celtic made chances yesterday, and that ruthlessness that Simo Valakari was talking about pre-match, that he enjoys about Celtic. That's the one thing that he said he likes about Celtic the most. The pre-match, there was a cutting edge. There was a lack of cutting edge yesterday from Celtic. But just from back to front, from the defenders looking shaky. Voyami Sinisal can do nothing about the goal, the opening goal. It's a great ball into the box, and it's a great header from the defender. But from the centre backs to the midfield to the attacking trio, it was just off yesterday. Everything was off, and you get people saying that this is them just struggling to get over the line. I do agree with you, Hamish, that this has been about for a while now. I think some results have been masking that. There's been a couple of shock results here and there, or shocking results, particularly the 3-0 game against Rangers at Ibrox. But I think the first thing you can really look back to that, the sort of changing in the way that Celtic were playing every game, was maybe the Dundee United game at Tannadice. That really did seem to hurt them. The fact that they dominated in that game, but they couldn't get the opening goal at Tannadice before Christmas or just after Christmas. It's one of those. It was during the festive period anyway, and since then there seems to be a real struggle in a lot of games to first of all start well and really put I don't know, put down a marker in games. There has been games in which they've scored goals, but you're waiting for these performances, and the performances were there at the start of the season. I thought they started the season really, really well. Had that draw against Aberdeen, but they were doing well domestically and in the cups as well. In the cup, the League Cup, and doing okay in the Champions League as well. But recently, I just feel as if there's been a bit of a regression in the way that Celtic play, and that came to the fore yesterday, and it was really, really disappointing, especially against a team that have been struggling both in scoring goals and keeping clean sheets as well, and they did both against what is supposedly the best team in the country by country.
I think away from home, undoubtedly, there's an issue for Celtic away from home domestically.
Yep.
And again, at the start of the season, we were really strong. We were kind of winning games pretty easily at the start of the season. There was real momentum, I think, and I think the Champions League games were really carrying the team and probably carrying the support as well. And it's almost after that, not even the final Champions League match, but it's almost like after that kind of sixth game, I think it was, when we then went into a break of 6 weeks or something before our next one. It's almost from that point, I think, that you've just seen the team struggling. And I mean, in that period, and as I say, we're not talking a few weeks, we're talking, call it 4 months. How many great Celtic performances have there been in that time? Munich was a great Celtic performance. It was a defensive performance generally, but we still create chances. Great performance. Team showed the level they can play at in the Allianz. I think Hibs a few weeks ago in the Scottish Cup was a good performance against an informed team. Dealt with them pretty well. Other than that, I'm kind of struggling. I mean, even the games we've been winning convincingly, like I remember an Aberdeen game at Celtic Park, I think we won 5-1.
Exactly the point I was going to make.
But it was a kind of stuttering performance. But that's at Celtic Park. Celtic Park's one thing, and apart from the derby, we've been pretty good at home this season and domestically. But away from home in 2025, and going back slightly further than that to Tannadice, every Celtic game away from home is a struggle at the moment. And we've now lost to St Mirren, we've lost to Rangers, we've lost to Hibs, we've drawn with Dundee United, we've drawn with Dundee in a game we should have lost. And even the other two that we've won, I think Ross County and Motherwell and St Mirren as well, were all kind of not entirely convincing. I mean, I know we beat St Mirren 5-2, but that kind of flattered us a wee bit, that game. And Ross County 4-1, I think that finished. That flattered us big time. That was like 1-1 going into the final 20-odd minutes. And Motherwell was, I think, 2-1 going into the last minute until Jota scored. So away from home, there's an issue with Celtic, and it seems to me like whatever has happened at whatever point in the season, clearly the team aren't playing with that same enthusiasm. Like, it felt at the start of the season like we had a point to prove still, and it was following on from how we finished the season last year, which was really strong as well. But like for a number of months now, it's been really strong. And yeah, we're going to win the league, but winning the league isn't a result of our 2025. Winning the league is a result of our 2024. that we had the second half of 2024. And I tell you something, like Scottish Cup, playing like we did yesterday, I think we're in danger in that as well.
Without a doubt, and it's a wake-up call. Maybe it's another wake-up call, but particularly against the team that you're going to face in a couple of weeks at Hampden, I think it will help in that regard. I just think you've got to bring psychology into it as well. There's no stakes to whenever Celtic play, particularly in the league at the moment, especially when you've got Rangers getting beat by Hibs at home the day before. It almost gives them a free hit in games because they know Rangers aren't going to claw back that gap. It's been like that for months. There's no stakes to when they play whatsoever. I would actually argue the point that Celtic had the worst result of the weekend of the two teams, because at least Hibs have been doing well. The form book suggests that they're doing well at the moment under David Gray, who has done a tremendous job for Hibs in the second half of the season. They're right up there in third place, pushing for that sort of automatic Conference League place / Europa League place, or whatever you want to call it. But there's no stakes to whatever Celtic do at the moment, win, lose or draw. And I think that apathy is now seeping through into the supporters as well. As much as they want to win the league, they know that even if Celtic get beat, they know the league's basically done, and it's a matter of time rather than any results that are coming. Of course, they still need to finish it. They need to win a couple of games to get that league, but Rangers aren't coming back from this gap that's been made between the two sides. So I just think there's apathy all over it, and it's been a long season as well, and I think everybody's feeling the effects of a long season. No winter break, a lot of international football, an extended Champions League, knockout football in the Champions League. It just seems to have all came to this point where Celtic look a bit tired. Not physically tired, because they put a lot into yesterday, particularly in the second half, but I think mentally they're just shattered after a long season, and maybe that might mean some changes for Saturday against Kilmarnock, which I would hope would be the case, because I think the team's needing an injection of new faces.
Listen, I hear you talking about the gap, and maybe that takes an element of the pressure off. And I've always felt this Celtic team is better in the games where the pressure is on. Mm-hmm. Okay, recent derbies, etc. But generally, when games are meaningful, I think we come to the fore. The point I would make is we've had other seasons in recent years where we've been so far ahead and we've not had this kind of drop off. Now, Ange Postecoglou's second season, okay, after we win the league, we kind of chuck it for a few weeks, and I think we lost to Hibs and drew with St Mirren and lost to Ibrox. But that was for a shorter period. That was for a couple of weeks, and it was also after we won the league. While would still be pretty frustrated to see Celtic lose any game, that's a bit more understandable. This league hasn't been won yet, and Celtic have been off it domestically now for 3 or 4 months. And I know there's been the occasional good performance in there. Struggling to think of too many in the league, if I'm totally honest. Like even Hearts last week, okay, good result. Was it like a breathtaking performance? Was it anywhere close to what we saw at the start of the season? Not for me. And so yeah, I guess you can bring stuff like that into it. But we've had teams in the past, Celtic teams in the past, that have been well clear at the top of the league, and they've kept going on. Whatever the issue is here, it's an issue that we have to fix, because I'm not just talking about the rest of this season. You're kind of concerned about next season as well, potentially. If this team are, I think John used the phrase, like, if you allow this to fester and you allow this to become acceptable, to not be turning up and playing well. And I'm not saying for a minute Brendan Rodgers thinks it's acceptable. It's pretty obvious from his comments it's not, and we'll come on to some of his comments. But if this just becomes a thing where you can kind of coast through periods of time in a season not playing particularly well, and it becomes almost acceptable next season, then I think you're worried about next season. When the reality is, this is a Celtic team going for a treble. We shouldn't feel like we're worried about anything at the club. This is a team going for the treble who've had our best European season in years. But I don't know. I'm struggling with it a little bit at the moment. I guess the obvious thing would be to ask how we change this, and our next match is against Kilmarnock, and personally I would be making, I think, somewhere between 4 and with maybe 3 and 5 changes for that game, pretty obviously. Do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I thought it was quite. Some of the changes that happened mid-game yesterday were quite concerning to me as well. You know, you're looking for 2 goals. Yeah, you know, a draw would have been a bad result at McDermott Park. I know you would have taken it by the end of the game, but even a draw against the bottom team in the Premiership, with respect to them, who had a good performance yesterday, a draw against St Johnstone is not a good result when prior to that the aggregate score between the two sides this season is 10-0. You know, they beat them 6-0 at McDermott Park. And I think that's one of the big examples of how Celtic's game has regressed over the course of a season. Because I was there at McDermott Park when was that, September, October time, and Celtic blew them away 6-0. Remember, Alex Bailly was playing back heels to Adamida, and he was scoring to make it 6-0. You know, it was so far away from that yesterday. I think there will be changes made on Saturday. You know, a couple of questionable changes were made mid-game. You're looking for a goal, as I was saying, and Daiz Maeda gets taken off. Now, I don't really understand that. I would have him on the park at all times, especially when you're chasing goals in a game. Was he tired? Was he?
He was pretty awful yesterday. I mean, I tend to agree. I would have left him on because he's Daiz Maeda, but like he was awful yesterday in terms of his build-up. The amount of times he passed a St Johnstone player.
Yeah, that is true. He did work the keeper with that sort of pass that looked like a shot as well that couldn't then get defended against. But apart from that, he didn't really do anything in the game. But you see, if it wasn't working through the middle, why not just shift him out to the left where he's been playing for a lot of the season? You know that you can get results by getting to the byline. Also think you could have brought James Forrest on a bit earlier. I know he had the biggest chance of the game in which Andy Fisher saved well, but he actually did look pretty effective. And, you know, bringing a guy on...
That's because James Forrest gets the standards and he knows that he can't coast at Celtic. And I tell you something, Nicholas Kuhn might have a higher ceiling than James Forrest, potentially. But Nicholas Kuhn should be looking at James Forrest and the way James Forrest came in after missing so much time, after winning however 30-odd trophies at Celtic, whatever it is, and the way James Forrest came into that game yesterday. And you're right, he missed a great chance, should have scored, but James Forrest offered miles more in those 20-odd minutes than Nicholas Kuhn has for the past 3 or 4 months. Kuhn needs to look at someone like Forrest and his attitude. And if you bring that attitude with the quality that you have, Nicholas Kuhn, then you know what a player we'll have. But I agree, Forrest was great when he came on. I thought Yang, the difference from Yang to Kuhn, the difference from Forrest to Jota was pretty stark. I thought Luke McCowan did so much more than Engels in the midfield as well.
Yeah,
they'd all start for me on Saturday.
Yeah, I'd probably make all those changes. I think Yang, I'd actually make the point, I think Yang was Celtic's best player yesterday, and he only played half an hour because he actually looked dangerous when he was when he's getting to the back. He was beating a man, wasn't afraid to go in. That was quite a nasty knock that he got just at the byline or just at the touchline. So he did well to get up for that. I think he needs to be rewarded for his continual improvements, even when he's getting limited game time off the bench. He's now making a difference for Celtic. I think now we need to figure out, is Yang going to be a starter for Celtic next season? I think the only way to find that out is by playing him in an extended amount of games between now and the end of the season. I think he's deserved it. I think that he was fearless yesterday, and yeah, I agree with all the other ones as well. He did well in setting up James Forrest for that chance. He should have an assist to his name, but the same thing happened again. He had a chance which was essentially another tap in for James Forrest, and he shoots right at the goalkeeper from an impossible angle. So he's got moments of brilliance in which he's saying, right, there's a player there in Adamida, but he frustrates at the same time. And at the moment for me, and I hate feeling like this about a Celtic striker, I don't feel confident at the moment that he's going to come on and score a goal for Celtic, a big goal. I expect him to score when Celtic are 2-3-0 up. But in terms of a game where Celtic need to get back in, they need to get a goal for a draw or a goal for a win. I don't have that same confidence in either that I did last season because it was there. I have had that confidence in the past. I don't know if he's got too comfortable at Celtic, but he should have an assist to his name. So that is unfortunate in that regard. But I just need to feel that confidence from the striker. You know, Brendan Rodgers the other day was talking about how well Johnny Kenny's been training so good from 25 yards out, yet he can't even make the bench on Sunday afternoon. I want to see more of these players, because we'll never have an opinion on these players unless we see them in the flesh. But is there space for him with everything that Dies Maeda is playing up front at the moment? I'm not so sure.
My issue at the moment is, right, see, if we have no injuries, we know Brendan Rodgers starting 11.
Yeah.
You could all name it off by heart. No injuries, you know exactly who's in that team. Out of all of those players, how many of them would you actually look at and say are playing well at the moment? There's only one. There's only one player who's playing well at the moment. And yet the rest of them who are underperforming and have been underperforming over the recent weeks and months continue to start game to game. That for me is a big thing. And I really hope when that team comes out on Saturday, I hope there's some changes in there. I would put Ralston in for Alistair Johnson. Again, I love Alistair Johnson. He's one of my favourite Celtic players of recent years. Not playing well at the moment at all. Johnson and Kuhn's relationship that was so good at the start of the season, what has happened to that? I would put Ralston in. I would have Liam Scales, if he's back, in alongside Carter Vickers, potentially Naropski in. I'd have Paulo Bernardo in midfield. I think I'd probably make something like 5 changes. I know people might say that's a bit over the top. We need to work ourselves out of this funk that we're in. And for me, the way you do it is by having hungry players in the starting 11. As someone was saying earlier in the chat, Yang is hungry at the moment. You can see that. Every
Very
time
hungry.
Yang comes onto the pitch, he is hungry. Nicholas Kuhn is the opposite of hungry. Stuffed. He's full up. He doesn't have any hunger. And there's a number of other players. I think, again, I'm not writing guys like Engels and Kuhn off. Like I think they will come back, hopefully, and I certainly hope they'll be good for us. But right now, it's not working. You can't have these guys continue to start games when they're underperforming. You've got Paulo Bernardo there, potentially Luke McCowan, who I thought was good when he came on. I'm going to go through a few comments, Ryan, because there's so many of them coming in.
All good.
Wazza boy, too many passengers are on holiday mode already. Kuhn just looks way off it. Joe's saying gunning for an anticlimactic end to the season. Such a shame. Yeah, that's I think that's the phrase I used as well. Anticlimactic, and it's a shame because it's been such a strong first half of the season. I need to stop saying. I keep saying like it's been such a strong season up to this point. I don't know if that's generally true. I think it was a strong first 4 or 5 months of the season. I don't think Celtic have really hit heights consistently since then. Sean saying, I'm getting a little concerned. Thought we played well against Hibs in the Cup, but apart from that, I can't remember our last good performance. Agree with you. Probably Munich. Chilpal saying, I thought Forrest was okay when he came on. At least he was trying. Wombat Yang put some spark into the game when he came on. My ball saying the team looks stale. AJ, CCV, Hatate all looking jaded. And Derek, maybe not this season, but we should be concerned about next season if these performances continue. There's some interesting comments for the manager as well, Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just going to make the point about Hatate. Everybody knows how I feel about Hatate, how much I've enjoyed watching the player over the past 3.5, 4 years. He's a victim of trying too hard in games, and even if it's not working out for him, he will continually try, and people will have a negative perception of that because he's blazing the ball over the bar. But he wasn't hiding yesterday. He was trying to make things happen in the middle of the park. It's just that when you're having a bad performance, he is a victim of that because he won't hide in games. And yeah, it was very infuriating to watch him continually shoot over the bar. For a guy that scored a lot of absolute screamers for Celtic, my goodness, he knows how to put a ball over the bar at the best of times. That I thought that, I don't think it's a lack of application from some players. Maybe some players it is, but in terms of the likes of Hatate and Engels, I seen that they were trying things yesterday, and McGregor, it just wasn't working out for any of them. And that combined performance from the three of them meant that Celtic just did not have any creativity in the game, despite having, X amounts of shots on target. They just couldn't. There wasn't any free-flowing football playing yesterday. It was almost by default because Celtic have better players than St Johnstone that they were getting in good positions, because St Johnstone were pushing, Celtic were hitting them on the counter at times and then getting shots away. But there wasn't any good passages of play. It was all because Celtic just had the better individuals than St Johnstone. But St Johnstone wanted the win more than Celtic. And I think that's quite concerning if Celtic are trying to go for the league, trying to get the league done as quick as possible, and a team that are, admittedly they are at the bottom of the league and they want to try and stay in the league. But Celtic should have motivations to go and win this league in a bit of style. And they're doing anything but at the moment. I mean, I looked at the form table. I looked at the form from Celtic since the 2nd of January, since that defeat to Rangers at Ibrox. Celtic have dropped 14 points in the league. But Celtic are kind of lucky in a way that they don't have any competition this season. Maybe that wouldn't be the case if they did have competition. They'd be more up for coming into these games and making it happen. But if they did, then they would be struggling, because that's a lot of points to be hemorrhaging over the course of, 3 months?
I just thought it was such an easy game to get up for yesterday, because you had an opportunity to win yesterday and to win next Saturday and to win the league ourselves at Celtic Park. I was pretty sure we'd get a reaction, or not a reaction, but I was pretty sure we'd win the game yesterday well after the Rangers result on Saturday. And the team just went up to it. And as a result, now we potentially win it when we don't even play, or we have to wait 3 weeks, I think, from now to clinch the league, when we could have been all looking forward to next Saturday, which I think is a shame. But grand scheme of things, we're still going to win the league. A few comments from Brendan Rodgers. He's saying there's maybe a few that are comfortable, and comfort is not a physical place. When you're comfortable, you become a bit timid and you lose duels and you lose the fight. You can never be that, and you can never be that if you want to be a top player. So collectively, that's the annoyance. He's addressed the problem there. I think we'd all agree Celtic look far too comfortable. I'm getting flashbacks to me saying that, I think, after Ibrox at the start of January, we were too comfortable. And it's still, we've had so many wake-up calls since then. Ibrox, Easter Road, Dens Park, you could say, was a wake-up call with the performance that night. The other derby, and none of them have been wake-up calls for the team that the team have actually learned from. So will we do it from yesterday? Who knows? The other Brendan Rodgers quote that I thought was interesting was him saying, I have to look at myself with it as well and really analyse, am I giving them that bit that's needed at this point? My intention always when I was here and come to the point is to sprint over the line, and I've done that before and I know what it looks like. But I don't like that side of it in this team, because for Celtic, it's winning the best way you possibly can, not just chugging your way over the line. So we have no excuse. So yeah, we need to act. It's just, this should be like such an enjoyable point of the season, and quite simply, it's just not enjoyable watching Celtic at the moment.
No, especially not away from home. And that would certainly ring true. You look at the Hibs result, you look at the result yesterday, you look at the result at Ibrox in January. There's too many performances. Even the games that Celtic are winning, as you quite rightly said, a lot of them aren't convincing. A lot of them aren't clean sheets either. You've got teams like St Mirren who, with respect, Celtic should be keeping clean sheets. I know they don't have a divine right to go and keep clean sheets, but with the players that Celtic have got, they should be able to keep more clean sheets. So they're allowing teams like St Mirren, St Johnstone, Hibs to be scoring, 2-3 goals into them sometimes. That doesn't help at all. And the St Johnstone, I mean, this is another problem, is the fact that Celtic aren't starting games very well at all at the moment. Look at the Rangers game at home. They were 2 goals down within 25-30 minutes. Hearts pressed them. It was only because Hearts couldn't keep up with the press and Celtic hit them on the counter with McGregor and Maeda that they got ahead in that game. But that wasn't a good start. They didn't have a good start against Hibs either, away from home. St Mirren, yes, they get the goal from Jeffrey Schlupp, but then St Mirren get back in the game and then they scored twice. So they've not been starting games well, and they've clearly not been finishing games well either, because nothing happened yesterday. So that's a bit of a problem going forward. It's something that needs to be rectified. There needs to be a bit of an injection of confidence into this team, because, as you quite rightly said, they are going for a treble at the end of the season. Doesn't feel like that in the moment, given the way that some games are going, some results are transpiring. But there needs to be a wee bit of an upping of the confidence levels, and a real taking a bit of pride in your work as well. This is over the course of the whole season, and I think recently there just hasn't been that same pride put into their performances that were clearly evident in the early parts of the season. We were raving after games against the likes of St Mirren, against Aberdeen, Motherwell, etc., Hearts, Hibs. we're not doing that anymore. We're now trying to find even more faults in results. So it's a disappointing time at the moment, but it's nothing that Celtic can't fix. They just need to fix it quickly, because a big game in the semi-final against the team that has just beat you yesterday, and they need to be up for that, because if they do manage to get through that game against St Johnstone, then they'll be up against Hearts and Aberdeen. And those two teams will be looking at Celtic at the moment and seeing a little bit of fragility, a little bit of weakness, and being like, we could get our hands on a trophy at the end of the season if we come up against this side. So it's up to Celtic to up their levels and show how good they are as a team, because we know it's there. We've seen it against Leipzig, seen it against Bayern Munich, seen it against Atalanta as well defensively, seen it against Young Boys, Slovan Bratislava, games against Rangers at the start of the season. They need to refine that, rediscover that form that's evaded them in recent times.
For me, that only comes from a number of changes on Saturday, and it's as simple as that for me. And I guess I can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure that if you make several changes and you have Yang in the starting lineup and you have Bernardo in the starting lineup, Anthony Ralston potentially in the starting lineup, maybe Luke McCowan, maybe James Forrest, I think you see a massive change in the approach from the team. And I think it's as simple as that. So I'm really hoping Brendan Rodgers makes a good few changes. I'm not talking about 11 changes or anything like that, but I think we need to see changes on Saturday, and I think you'll see a big improvement from Celtic if that happens. And then ideally you have a scenario where guys like Kuhn and Engels suddenly get a bit of hunger back because their place is in doubt. It's sad it would need to come to that, but it feels like that at the moment. Anyway, big picture is we're 2 wins away from the title. We were 3 before this weekend, so somehow we've moved closer towards the league title, even though it doesn't feel like it. We're another 2 wins away from the Scottish Cup and the treble as well. So we can still achieve all this between now and the end of the season, but the performances have to get better. Okay, full quotes from Brendan Rodgers are on the website, celticway.co.uk. There's also plenty more reaction to yesterday's game and looking forward as well. Ryan, thank you. Appreciated. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll speak to you this time tomorrow.